You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome into yet another Sunday with the show that we have come to know as What the Hell Are You Smoking? Denny's here. I'm here. We're all having a good time on a Sunday here in the month of July. Not many of them left. We're closely getting to the end of the month, but we're having a good time, and the listeners are starting to file in. Denny, how are you doing today?
Awesome. I really look forward to doing this. This makes my whole week. As everybody knows or doesn't know, I didn't have much to live for. All my friends are gone. When you get my age and you have no friends left, it makes getting up really hard. And I have a renewed lease on life because of this. Thanks to you again, Seth.
That's why we do it.
I really look forward to doing this. And I have to say, my last show had 855 views. And that's pretty impressive. And I want to thank all the folks watching the show, because I really do appreciate it. But I want to bring up something about the subscriptions and the likes. It's really important for you guys to really do hit that like button. I mean, you come and you watch a show and you don't hit the like. Why? I don't know. But you should. The reason being is because where Seth is located, he doesn't get the public traffic with the analytics that KFan does. And, we're kind of like second dog. And we're not second dog around here. And so it's important that you subscribe. It's important that you comment. And it's important that you like the show and show it. Because it means so much for analytics for YouTube, because then YouTube puts them up at the top of the list. Yeah. So show them some love, okay?
I appreciate all those that already do, but every like, every subscription, every comment, that's what draws the attention of the algorithm, as they say. So
absolutely.
And it's, I've looked into this, I've researched this, because anytime I've been at XL Energy Center, it's a noticeable difference compared to where I'm at down in southern Minnesota. So it's everyone counts. I appreciate everybody that already does. Those that have not as of yet, we'll welcome you with open arms.
All right, to start today's show, thanks to the viewers, I went back and looked at the whole show, and I have to tell you, how it happened is I came in that show late. And when I heard Judd talking about putting Rossi on the bench or up in the box for Goudreau, it made me physically ill. I mean, it really did. I bleed Minnesota Wild. And after a lot of the comments of that, I went back and I watched the whole show. So I owe an apology to Judd, because that was not Judd's deal. It was Jesse. Where she comes up with this stuff, I don't know. And we're going to talk about that today with Rossi, because she had another show about why it's a good idea to trade Rossi. Where does she get this stuff? I don't know. She's so good at what she does. I mean, really. She's an excellent reporter, and she's got all the contacts, and she knows everybody. But her views on hockey and mine are different ends of the spectrum. And we're going to talk about that today. Other than that, we have a new segment starting. It's called Objection, Your Honor, because there's hardly any content to talk about right now. We thought it getting the subscribers involved. And when you come up with a good comment or one that's absolutely ridiculous, we're going to have you on the show so you can speak your piece about it, and we'll have point counterpoint type thing. I think it'll be interesting, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, you get a couple minutes of fame on YouTube, and everything's good. All right, moving on. I always tell you a little bit about myself before when the show starts, and this week I'm going to talk about a concert I went to. For my 60th birthday, a friend of mine took me to see Blois Cult and Jefferson Starship at Medina Ballroom. And the day before, Paul Kantner had died, and we didn't know if there was going to be a show or not. Well, ended up the girl, Kathy, who sang with him for 20 years, she flew in from San Francisco and put on a hell of a show. Well, after the first show, I went out to burn one, and there was 6 guys standing out there all burning one and smoking some good dope. And I came up to them and introduced myself, and, I always ask everybody what their 3 favorite concerts are. And then I told them I'm here to see Blois Cult, and it's my birthday, and da-da-da-da. Well, it ended up being the Blois Cult band and their manager. And they took me downstairs to the bowling alley, and I did a shot with each of them. Best birthday I've ever had in my life. And then they said something to me when they got up on stage, and so it was just cool as hell. Yeah, doesn't get any better than that. All right, moving on. I think I'll start with Judd's show about trading Zuccarello. And I listened to it twice before I made this, but he really thinks that we can trade Zugs at the All-Star break to the New York Rangers because they love him. Well, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Zug's 36 years old. He should really be retired now, in my opinion. His drop-off in performance with once you got off the first line is so noticeable. And I keep saying that you guys got Zugs up on the second line. No. He was passing up shots last year when he should have been shooting. He was passing off. And if you think about this, when Kaprizov got hurt a couple of years ago and Zugs was by himself out there, he was the worst player on the team. He looked lost. He really did. And I don't know if you remember it, but he was terrible. And then he gave him a 2-year contract. 1 year too long. Last year, but if you look at his performance the second half of the year, why on earth would anybody trade for him? He's not a second liner anymore. He's had a great career. I hope he retires and Ogren gets a spot. Enough said.
So I have the stats. Last 29 games of the season, Zuccarello had 4 goals, 20 assists. So he had 24 points in 29 games. But even strength, 2 goals and 11 assists in the final 29 games of the year.
Yeah, that was on the power play.
Yeah, and if you look at the totals, let me see if I can do this without messing up I'll do this. This is always the danger of having the way NHL does their stats. It's like it's fluid, and so I don't want to lose where I've got everything because we're going to come back to it. But you look at the total body of work for Matt Zuccarello on the season: 12 goals, 51 assists, 63 total points. On the power play, he had 5 goals and 33 assists alone. So he had 7 goals and 30 assists, even strength, in 69 games. That's
huge drop off. And the New York Rangers certainly won't be trading for him to go for a cup run with a performance levels like that. I mean, analytics say it all these days. You know, analytics really tell where you're at. That's why I don't think the New York Rangers would trade anything for Zuggs at this point, especially if they're going on a cup run.
Well, and it might be something. Let's say this scenario plays out. Let's say he does produce at a better level. If his trade value increases, the moment you get a phone call, you pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, and he has a no trade clause too, I think. But who doesn't on this team?
True.
All right. What do we got here now? All right. We got to talk about Marco Rossi and why it's an excellent idea not to trade him. As you know, I'm extremely high on Rossi. 1 year in the league, he did most of his 21 goals on his own. And I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Just think if he had a couple of wingers that really shot the puck. He'd have 30 goals last year. This year, I expect him to hit between 35 and 40, depending on who they put up on the wing. If they put Mojo and Zuggs again, forget it. But, you know, Billy said he's going to give the kids a chance. And if he does, which brings me to my next point. If they play Height, Ogren, and Rossi together for the 6 preseason games and the 9 regular season games, so we really see what we have, he's going to make the team. And if he does, that second line of Ogren, Rossi, and Height, they're going to be phenomenal. By the end of the year, they're going to be one of the best lines in NHL because they got the speed, they got the shake and bake, and Rossi he just goes right to the net, and he's only getting better at it. When you got 2 wingers shooting the puck, it's going to be a beautiful thing. Trust me. You know, I'm very high in Height. I haven't seen a player like him, and you know, I've watched all the greats from Gretzky and Lemieux and Bobby Orr and Gordie Howe and Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita and Rocket Richard. I've watched them all. I've never seen a kid with this kind of moves. And, you know, that says a lot. All right. Moving on. What do you want to talk about first, Seth?
Well, we have I'll put this, or maybe I should wait and throw this in for objection, Your Honor. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. We had a counterpoint to the Ogren Rossi Height line, but
all right.
I think I'll save that. I think I'll save that for objection, Your Honor, because it is an objection. So I think I'll save that one. But let's start with Rossi, because I think what's important about all of this trade discussion, it's one thing to entertain offers, see what's available, to just, if somebody calls asking about a guy, to pick up the phone and answer. It's another thing entirely to trade a guy. And so I think it's important that, I'm sure Bill Guerin fielded offers, or at least kind of wanted to gauge what he could potentially get. But as we sit here on July 21st, Marco Rossi's still on the team.
And not a word being said in a trade anywhere.
Yeah, it's gone real quiet on the trade front. And so I think that was just a little bit of practical GMing on Bill Guerin's part, just to see what he could get. it's obvious he didn't get any trade package that wowed him, and rightfully so, because it would require a lot to get a guy like Marco Rossi. It should require a big return. Didn't get what he wanted, and so he, at least to this point, has not pulled the trigger. And so I think the reasoning being that Rossi was one of the few players that didn't have trade protection. So you say, well, what could we potentially get? But that's a very different conversation than let's trade this guy, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best trades are no trades.
Correct.
And with Rossi, I am extremely high on him. He's just starting out. When he gained 15 pounds of muscle, he became an NHLer. This year, I really look for him to hit somewhere around 40 goals, depending on who he gets to play with. Otherwise, he's going to be down to 25, 30 mark if Lojo and Zuggs are there, which is a huge mistake because older and slower. And I know the Wild are saying that Mojo's contracted, so he's going to produce. Well, I lost all respect for Mojo from last year. He didn't produce shit last year. He took the year off. I wouldn't give him the opportunity.
43
I'd
games.
bench him.
43 games.
Bench him.
The shot was fewer.
Yeah, and another thing had Judd brought up was that he thinks Gus Bus's history, that he's all washed up. Well, obviously, Judd, you did not watch the World Cup. And this is something for everybody to think about. The kid just had a baby. He's got a family. And this is his job. Don't you think that he's doing everything he can to be in the best shape of his life coming to training camp? I think so. Then you're going to see old Gus Bus, who was the second best goalie in the league 2 years ago with the .931 save percentage. The only reason he didn't get any votes for anything because he only played 39 games, and you have to have 40 to be voted on. Otherwise, he would have been second in the whole league for everything. He's phenomenal. And I think we're going to see a reemergence of Gus Bus. And I hope what happens, Gus Bus and Wallstead, now you know what I think of Wallstead. He's a generational talent, and we're damn lucky to have him, and we're going to start to get to see him play. And, everybody's, they're all talking about how Flowers this and Flower. He had an .895 save percentage last year, and that's the best he's played in a couple of years. He's, if they think so highly of him, let him retire and make him a coach. He shouldn't be playing. His time is come and gone. He's had a Hall of Fame career, but he's not even a good backup goalie today. Not in my opinion, anyway. All right, what else? Getting back to Rossi. I don't know what else I can say about him. 200-foot game. He never complained about anything. He just went out there and did his job. And what more can you ask for than that? There's no way in hell I'd trade him. And they're talking about getting Fantilli and a pick for Rossi. Are you kidding? I'd take Rossi over Fantilli any day. People just don't realize how good he really is yet.
I've got, let's get to this comment from the dude 9210, because this gives us an opportunity to talk about Danila Yurov and how he factors in to all of this, because the hope is that Yurov is definitively a top line guy. And if that's your top line center, that obviously moves Joel Eriksson Ek down in the lineup. So let's say Yurov and Eriksson Ek factor in as centers. Does that bump Rossi down to third line, or do you move him to a wing position?
That's a damn good question. I haven't seen Yurov play yet, so I can't really. I hate commenting on players I haven't watched. It wouldn't be fair to you. for me to give you any kind of insight on, because I haven't seen him yet. I've watched tape on him from KHL, but it might be that he does take second line center. And if that does happen, or first line center and move Eck down to second. But, Eck, he's a stud. And he's only going to get better. This year I'm predicting that Kaprizov gets 60 goals, Eck gets 40, and Boldy gets 40. That's how dominant they are. And I wanted to bring this up. I got it. Everybody keeps talking about moving Murat up to first line, or breaking up the trio. I want you to think about this. In 20 games last year, Eck, Kaprizov, and Boldy had 82 points. That's 4.1 points a game. Colorado was second with 3.71. That's with their crew. Dallas was third with 3.61. Vancouver's third with 3.55. Toronto 3.53. And Edmonton with 3.49. Our boys were number one. And you want to break that up? How could you possibly think that? Get your hockey minds together, boys and girls. That was the best line in the NHL.
Well, and that was
to think about. Oh, go ahead.
That was the point that I made too. Is this all comes back to the assumption? We talk about Kaprizov, Eriksson, Ek, Hartman as something that could potentially be brought back this year because it was successful 2 years ago. Those 2 years ago, and all of the players that were part of that combination are 2 years older. And you talk about, well, if we don't get something figured out, then maybe we go back in that case to Eriksson, Ek, Boldy, and Johansson. That's like, well, that line was good for like the final 20 games of a season 2 years ago or last year. These are all assumptions that you can get back to that same level with those line combinations. But here's the thing too. It was, I mean, I've got moneypuck.com up right now. Expected goals percentage, which is the percentage of time when a goal is scored that it's scored by that particular team or line combination.
Yep.
The Minnesota Wild's Boldy, Eriksson, Ek, and Kaprizov, their expected goals percentage was second in the league at 62.9%. So 63% of the time that a goal was scored, it was by one of those three guys.
Yep. How can you break that up? If it's not broken, you don't fix it.
And so, okay. So you go to those line combinations. You run into the same issue that you had before, is because you're operating under the assumption that Marcus Johansson is going to have a bounce back season in a contract year. If he doesn't, then you're still looking at trying to find a guy to occupy that wing spot on that second line. And so I guess this goes back to this point that is going to become, a big push for the show, is let somebody win a spot. Let somebody earn a spot. Because the thing with veterans, they may give you a higher floor, but rookies by and large kind of embrace those roles and can potentially give you more.
Well, all I know is this: if they don't give Rossi and Ogren 15 games to look at them, they're not really giving them a chance. 15 games is enough to know what you have. And if they do that, then they're really giving them a shot.
Yeah.
If they don't, they're going to send Height back, which is a huge mistake. But I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. I don't believe Billy for 1 second saying he's going to put the kids in the lineup, or Hines. He's already said he doesn't like playing them. Maybe we get Ogren.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Just a few comments in regards to Danil Yurov. Dougie will start it off saying that he has been mostly a wing, is just learning the center position to be a little more versatile when he makes his way to the lineup. So in that scenario, then
There you go.
You maybe have the best of both worlds where Yurov can just slot in as a wing and take one of those spots. And then it's still Joel Eriksson-Ek and Marco Rossi as your top two centers.
If Yurov slides in as a wing, all their problems are solved. And we're going to be dangerous.
Well, here's like best case scenarios. Let's say Yurov is good enough to play center at the NHL level. Then all of a sudden you go to the point where you can have Yurov, Eriksson-Ek, Rossi, Kuznetsov as your four starting centers.
That's really strong. That's scary. And there were some points a couple of years ago where Kaprizov was a hybrid wing center. They kind of got away from it, but Kaprizov was kind of center, kind of wing. I mean, they let him go. And, of course, he flourished. And if they do that again, that's a beautiful thing, too. Anytime you can change things up, because like last year, they were the top line, but you can stop any line if you put all your big dogs out there to stop them. That's why you need depth. And Rossi didn't have anybody to play with, so they didn't worry about them. Our third line was, mediocre at best, and our fourth line was terrible.
Yeah.
And so, they got to give the kids a chance. I keep saying it, and I know you get sick of hearing it, but they really do. We could have a scary team. I like our defense. And with Wallstedt and Gus in the back end, we could have a pretty good team. But not if they keep all the old Billy boys in the group. It's not happening.
We're at this point, gridlock, again, it's a word that I've used frequently. We are at a point of gridlock where you have the prospect pool, if it's as good as the Wild's tout that it is, and it is, we're getting to the point now where you're constantly like they're trying to push their way up, and the team is kind of trying to keep them from coming up too quickly. But the more you kick this down the road, the more you kick the can down the road and don't just give them the opportunities to see what they've got. It's the thing that I've said for the last 2 years is use this as an opportunity to evaluate where guys are at. Look, if you have somebody come up to the NHL level, one of those prospects, and it's clear that they're not ready for the NHL, that's one thing. That's one thing. But to just never give the opportunity, never give the chance to see if they are, then you just get a bunch of question marks down there. It'd be one thing if you have, I'm just going to use him as an example, Liam Ogren, and you give him a 10, a 15 game sample to see if he's ready, and he just is not. Okay, now you know he needs a little more time, and then you move on to the next one. But it's like all these different players, you don't know what you have because there never is an opportunity other than when it's on one of those fourth line spots. And at that point, you're just looking to fill a roster spot, not necessarily fill a position in the lineup. That's the backwards thinking too. Bring somebody up to fill a second line wing position. See if they're ready to take the job full time.
Well, John Hines is such a great coach that he kept Mojo there the whole year, regardless of what he did. It didn't matter. And I don't see much change. Hopefully he changes, but I just don't see it. He's not the right coach for the Wild at all. He likes to play the Billy's boys. And what I find hilarious is Billy goes, well, they just have to play better this year. That's hilarious. They're older, they're slower, they're not getting any better. They're only getting worse. So, Billy, wake up. Smell the coffee. Oh, Jesus. I get all wound up about this, I know, but they have to play the kids. They do. And hopefully we'll see it in preseason and in the exhibition games. That'll give us a real good taste of what's happening.
How about this from B. Lake? If our prospects can't outperform Marcus Johansson, they don't deserve to be in the NHL.
Oh, you got that right.
And they all can. It's not a high bar. It's not a high bar to set. Okay, Marcus Johansson. So he had 11 goals, 19 assists, 30 points in 78 games. He had 1 power play goal and 6 power play assists. So he had 23
games with 1 shot.
I can feel my blood pressure spiking.
Yes.
He had 23 points, even strength, for the entirety of the regular season. And he played almost 16 minutes per night on the ice.
Yeah. I remember well.
And again, 43 games with 1 or fewer shots. So it's not a high bar to set. I talked about it when we just looked at some potential names to fill that spot. If Liam Ogren takes that second line spot and he puts up 200 shots and his shooting percentage is even 10%, that's 20 goals. Guess what? You've already doubled the Marcus Johansson output.
I like that thought.
And that's
like I really do.
That's the thing is I just am doing basic math here. Maybe he shoots more than that. Maybe his shooting percentage is higher. But again, you don't know if you keep plugging people into roles in the lineup in which are not third and fourth line spots are not like premier shooting spots. And if you have prospects that are premier offensive prospects, why are you putting in a bottom 6 role?
Exactly. You know, if they brought up any kids and put them on the fourth line and they had 3 points in 18 games, they'd be sent back to Iowa. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So how did Mojo stay second line winger with the same production?
Marcus Johansson in the final 29 games of the season, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 total points in the final 29 games of the season, and he played over 15.5 minutes per night.
And I'll bet those goals were against San Jose or Washington. That's the only time he played.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah, I've lost all respect for Mojo. What he did last year was a joke. And how they let him get away with it is beyond me.
Well,
he'd be doing Herbies every day if I was coach.
That's where I kind of wonder if that call was John Hines specifically or if that call came from higher up. We'll never know. Nah,
I've been trying to find out for a long time, and I can't get no answers.
I feel like
I know a few people, and nobody can give me an answer.
Yeah, I'm probably tinfoil hatting too much with that sort of a discussion. But we see the results. We saw it play out every night. And you're gonna say with a straight face that there's production there that's helping the team win games. It's like I don't agree. But I guess that's why I'm here and not on an NHL bench.
Well, if I was on the bench, tell you what, the kids would be playing. And the old boys with the no trade clauses, you'd be doing Herbies every day till you trade me, because I'd be working their ass off. Blue line to blue line, blue line to red line, blue line to blue line. That's what Herbies are, or they also call them suicides. And they talked about a little bit in the the great game, the Olympics. What was the movie called?
Miracle.
With Miracle on Ice. Yes, they got into it, but that's what he really did.
Yeah.
And it works. Gets your attention right away.
Because another big key to this. Okay, so you've got Kirill, you've got Joel Eriksson Ek, you've got Matt Boldy, you've got Marco Rossi. Those are clear-cut top 6 guys. Clear-cut, not only now, but for what you're building,
future.
For what you're building towards, exactly.
Yep.
And so you can say there are 2 spots in that top 6 that have yet to be defined. It's likely that it's going to be some prospects in the system that take those roles.
Ogren and Height.
And I guess I would want to make sure that you had definite things, sure things to fill those spots, because if you don't, you free up a little money contractually. If you know that you've got prospects that can fill spots in the lineup for cheap, then that means you have more money to throw at a big fish, big game hunting. Go get somebody that can be like a bona fide top of the lineup guy in the event that they come around, because they really don't. It's a rarity.
Yep.
Because teams value top end's talent to the point that they retain them until they say, hey, I don't want to play here anymore.
Well, I had a big discussion about when Eichel was up for a trade with Pat Micheletti on Beyond the Pond. And I was all for trading for him. And Pat wasn't. And look how things turned out in Vegas. Oh, Jesus. That was a beautiful move by Vegas.
Let me just see if I can find, because I remember it was even rumored what would be asked for the Minnesota Wild to send in return, and I want to say Jordan Greenway was part of it.
Well, Paul Fent was the GM then. He was trying to work a deal to get Eichel.
And there was a lot made. I know there was a lot made about the locker room thing. I was hosting another show before I took over for Locked On Wild. My biggest thing was just the fact that he had undergone that experimental neck surgery.
Yep.
That was my only hesitancy in trying to make that trade. Is that
Buffalo wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah.
And look what happened. He got it done, and Eichel's a generational talent too. I mean, they don't come along very often.
I'm trying to see here. I don't know if this article is going to say what the potential trade was, but I would imagine even a few years ago, I would imagine Marco Rossi was part of it. I don't know if Boldy would have been part of it, but that's the price of going and grabbing a bona fide top line guy. That's why it's
you got to pay for it. You overpay for it, really.
That's why it's so important to develop those guys, because it's so hard to. John is saying Boldy and Rossi both were part of that trade package.
Thank you, John.
Jack Eichel. So, it's this brings us back full circle. You gotta make sure and see what you have in the organization, because let's say Riley Heidt absolutely goes nuts. We are penciling him in as a second line guy. Let's say he's a bona fide 90-point first line guy. Then all of a sudden you have really deepened your lineup.
What it means is we got a scary team again.
Yeah.
When Ogren and Height make the team, we're going to be really, really good. And we have year off coming, and I believe he's a bona fide. To me, he looks a little better than Kaprizov in the KHL tapes. I mean, I don't know what his points are, but his skating is better than Kaprizov's. But He doesn't have the edge work of Kaprizov, but he's faster up and down. But who's got Kaprizov's edge work? Nobody. I mean, kids model their game now after his edge work. That's how good it is. And, we have so much talent in the organization now. We don't have to go out and get a big dog. We just got to play our kids. And we're going to be just fine. Yeah. Because as the team stands right now, the way they have it, I don't see us making the playoffs. Not if they're going to do what I think they're doing. They're talking about putting Hartman back on first line and dropping Eck the second line. And, oh, Jesus, it's going to be a mess if that's what they do. And I don't see us coming out of the gate real well. I don't. But we'll see. They haven't done anything yet.
Yeah. 6th in the Central, at least tentatively right now, just off the top of my head. And last I checked, 6th in the Central is not going to get you it's not going to get you a postseason spot. But you are clearly a worse team than Colorado, than Dallas, than Nashville, than Winnipeg, and you are in that middle fighting it out for what's left with Utah and with St. Louis. I think the only team that you're probably better than right now, but I'm saying it in a hesitant manner because
Chicago.
They're catching up.
They've added a lot of pieces this year.
They're not
so far, and they're not done.
They are not going to be fun to play against this season. They're going to be a huge pain in the ass. They're going to be physical, and it's not going to.
Not only that, but Utah has a lot of talent. They got a bunch of young kids, and I think this is the year that they finally start coming together. They kind of lost their way at the end of the year. They didn't have much leadership, but that comes from rookies learning the game and learning what it takes.
Yeah.
And they went through that last year, and so I expect them to be better too. Because, boy, they got some talent. I like some of their kids.
We've got a listener from Russia who has a question about Zeev Buium.
Yes.
Will Zeev Buium start for the Minnesota Wild next season, or will he be sent to the AHL? Well,
good question.
It's a great question, but it's one that has generated a few different answers. I think Locked On Wild has an opinion, a strong opinion as to what happens here. So he's committed to University of Denver. He will play for I think they're the Pioneers.
Yep.
I think that's their mascot. So he will play for
college champions
as they try to repeat. But I'm going to be shocked, borderlining on angry, if Zeev does not sign his ELC the moment the season is done. Within a couple of days, a week. And the Wild burn the first year of his ELC to get him to the NHL level, because by the time Denver season is done, it'll be right around the trade deadline. If the Minnesota Wild are out of it, somebody's getting dealt. My guess is probably Zach Bogosian.
And Morel.
if anybody will take him. So then you have freed up a spot to where you can bring Zeev up for the final couple of months of the season, give him an opportunity to see where he's at compared to the NHL game. And more importantly, you do that setting him up for the full offseason to where he can say, okay, here are the things that I need to work on. It's not a long list. Here are the things that I need to work on that he can then spend the entire offseason getting ready for, because he knows he'll be at the NHL level the next season.
Well, with all young defensemen, the first thing I look at is how well they close the gaps and how they turn the play to the outside. The sooner they learn that, and Brock Faber, you didn't have to teach, he was already doing it. And for a kid to already have that, he's special. And I haven't seen enough of Zeev. We might want to ask Trav because he watches Zeev all the time.
Every minute of Denver hockey.
Yes, and the only thing I can say about Zeev from what I saw is he sees the ice extremely well. He gets off that first pass like a pro right now. And I believe he's, just like you, he's going to burn the contract and go fast track just like Brock. But maybe is Trav on the show?
He was earlier. I haven't seen him comment in a bit, so my guess is maybe that he hopped off. But
okay,
we'll see. I'll keep an eye out.
All right. Yeah, because he's the one to ask. But what I saw of him, he looked good. The main question is, how well does he close the gaps? Will he turn the play to the outside? Which all young defensemen, that's the hardest thing to learn.
Yep.
So we'll see. What else we got?
Well, do we want to use this opportunity to introduce the new bit and give a few examples of how it works?
Yes. So everybody can see. Objection, Your Honor. What's going on? Yeah. We got what? One guy?
Well, I've saved a few comments to use as examples.
Oh, okay.
For this too. We'll see. I know I sent Tom an email. We'll see if he's able to join here. Otherwise, we'll certainly have him on in future episodes, as well as anybody else that wants to hop in as well. But basically what we're doing here is we're going to provide the opportunity for listeners to hop in and state their case. It can be how you think the line combination should look, whether you think trading a particular player is a good idea, anything related to the Minnesota Wilds as we get closer and closer to the start of the season. Hop on, state your case, and Denny will weigh in, either agreeing with your position or objecting, and stating his reasoning as to why his opinion is different.
We had a comment that I read from Michael Owen, I believe his name is. Was talking about how left-handed shots should be playing on the left-hand side, and we're all crazy for thinking otherwise. Well, that's ridiculous. If you have a left-hand shot, you want to be on the right side because it opens up the net. It gives you better shooting angles. Anybody with a left-hand shot should be on the right side because you have that much more of the net to shoot at. And to give you an example, if you're on the right side of the left shot and the goalie's moving, and where the goalie moved from, that's where you shoot. You see those kind of goals every day in the National Hockey League. That's why the left-hand shot or right-hand shot on the left side, same thing. You got better angles to shoot. So your deal with the left on the left is totally ridiculous.
Mike is clarifying here that he was suggesting only on the power play.
Oh, no, doesn't matter. You want a left-hand shot on the right side because you have much better angle.
Strong-sided players prevail over weak-side shots.
Hey, what do you mean exactly, Mike? Strong-sided players prevail over weak-side shots.
We'll get his rebuttal.
Yeah, I don't exactly understand what he's saying here. Strong-sided players prevail over weak-side shots. I don't know what that means, really. Do you?
If someone is defending on their strong side and a forward is playing on their weak side, they'll be destroyed defensively.
If they're defending on the strong side, playing on the weak side, It'll be destroyed defensive. Well, of course. It doesn't matter if you're left or right. I mean, if you're on the weak side and you got one defender and 3 on the other side, of course you have a better chance. That's how you want. That's what puck movement comes from, is trying to get those.
He's talking about the balance, too. If we have 11 left-handed players out of 12 in the entire lineup, that's a problem.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Ideally, you want 50-50, but that's a perfect world. But I can tell you this, most professional hockey players learn to deal with that. Best instance is, of course, left-hand shot right side, right-hand shot left side, but it doesn't always work that way. But NHL players learn to deal with it. But you're right about having all left-handed.
Balance the lineup out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Get some right-hand
He's
shot.
right there.
Yeah.
He's right there. What else we got?
Let's go to Drew here. Would you put a package together of Spurgeon, Gustafson, Rossi, plus a draft pick for Leon Draisaitl?
Oh, geez. Oh. Second best player in the world? Yeah, I would. For Draisaitl? You know, you know what he plays with McDavid, but it's what he does by himself that's so impressive.
Yeah.
And his shot is so good. I mean, he's a generational talent. That's like getting an Eichel. He's that good.
As
far as I'm concerned, he's the second best player in the National Hockey League.
The dude brings up a great point. I would want an assurance that he is not going to just be here for 1 year. You'd have to have an assurance. You'd have to have. Oh. Now he's 28, so maybe a
7-year contract.
Lock him
Absolutely.
in. But it would have to. It would have to, the dude 9210. It would have to include an extension, because otherwise you can go get some percentage of what Leon Draisaitl brings. It's going to be substantially less, but you can get that for a much lesser cost. If you're going to go get Draisaitl, go get him and make sure that he's here long term.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade for him unless it was long term. And for me, the cutoff point for a player's career now is 35. It used to be 30, but now players work out all year. You know, they got their eating coaches and their nutritionists and everything, and they've extended their playing time by 5 years, and that's real. After that, I don't care what you eat or how much you work out, your body starts giving way. And all the, like Stamkos just signed a 3-year deal in Nashville, right? That's a stretch to me, because he's, he's up there. It's not a hard deal. I mean, Nashville has some extremely talented people. Andrew is one of my favorite coaches. In fact, a couple of years ago begged that we get him, because I really like Bruno as a coach. And he has turned out to be an exceptional coach.
Yeah.
If we had him, we'd be so much better off. Anything else?
Another key distinction too. Just thought of this. John Hines is a good coach for Bill Guerin, but not a good coach for the Minnesota Wild.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
How does that sound?
Like I've said before, his chair's heating up. The fire has started. Let's see what happens in spring training.
Yeah, Dougie's got a good point about Draisaitl too. Would he want to commit to being in Minnesota for that long? Well, you would have to sell him on that. You'd have to sell him on, hey, look at all these prospects we have. You're coming in here. You're a top line guy. You get to play with Kirill Kaprizov. You are the missing piece. That would be the selling point to Leon Draisaitl is you are the missing piece for us to go make a cup run.
Well, as much as we like, it's all conjecture, and realistically, Draisaitl ain't coming. He's going to resign with Edmonton. It's not going to happen.
Big D isn't coming to Minnesota. Dude wants to win.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't care what Billy sells and Hines sell. They're not selling enough. All the players know what Minnesota's doing. And they know they're not dummies. And all the coaches and the GMs know. Why Billy went and got Trennan is beyond me, because even though he's really supposed to be pretty good, we got 6 players just like him.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense to me. And then you took a roster spot from a kid.
The Trennan move underscores the bigger problem. Is if you needed to bring in a guy, to get back some of that bite and being, because he is from everything I've heard, he is an absolute menace to play against. But the problem is you have 6 of those guys, and
exactly.
So it underscores
number one being Foligno. Yeah, that's Foligno's job.
It underscores the fact that Bill Guerin's group, it's on them. It's on them as not being good enough to win the way that Guerin wants them to, that he has to go out and get somebody to do it for them.
Well, Guerin's way that he wants to win is 20 years behind. Now it's about speed. It's about skill.
Yep.
And hitting when you have to. The game isn't played today like it was 20 years ago. And Billy keeps thinking that's how he's going to get to the promised land. And it's not happening.
Fast teams with skill that can play physically if they need to. Not
if they need to.
Not physical teams that can play with speed when they need to, because guess what? You need to all the time.
Yes. Yeah, it's well, we'll see what happens in preseason, but I don't expect Hines is going to change his outlook. And if they do put Hartman back up on the first line, we're in for a long year. I'm just telling you, it's, we have 6 players who all play exactly the same way. They're all 10-goal-a-year players. You don't get anywhere with that. You need 1 or 2 grinders like that, but you don't need 6. And Billy is filling up the boat with them. That just gets his seat hotter. Time for Judd to take over. Oh, anything else?
Beyond that, we can finish with this one. Dougie says, I firmly believe the Wild have the prospects in the system to become a contender. Period.
Absolutely. We are loaded up. Like Seth and I went to see the scrimmages with the kids. We got a lot of talent. Like I said before, I think we have 4 NHLers right now. And of height, Urov, Ogren, Wallstead, Carson Lambos, because he's ready to play too. And I can tell you this. Right now, San Jose is the worst team by far in the league. Morel and Bogle would be an upgrade in their defense, so it'd be easy to make something happen. I mean, even if we had to give up a draft pick to get rid of them, I'd do it. Just to open up spots for the kids.
I'm going to predict. I'm going to throw this out there. I'm putting myself out on a limb here.
Okay.
if the Buffalo Sabres are in a playoff position by the time the trade deadline comes around, I look at how young their D-core is. I think Bill Guerin could talk them into going after Zach Bogosian.
Yeah. Well, Zach has, he has some value. The problem with this is he's so slow-footed. Everybody just goes by him. But he can move people out in front of the net when he does it.
Yeah.
He gets lost out there a lot of times. I don't like him as a defenseman myself. Yeah, he's a big body and everything, but he gets lost out there. And my evaluation of his play is he wouldn't be on my team, I'll tell you that.
Well, I think that is. Oh, we'll finish with this. The dude 9-2-0. I don't consider Hartman in the same boat as Foligno, Trennan, Goudreau, etc. He's averaged 20 plus goals per 82 games the last 3 seasons. I think that's a fair take.
Oh, I like Hartman.
Yeah,
I'd keep Hartman. Yeah, he's very versatile.
I think of the extensions, I think the Hartman one is the most justifiable because he can play wing and center. He's an ideal third line guy for a playoff team. He's an ideal third line guy because he shoots the puck, but Mike is right on. He just needs to walk that fine line of playing with an edge and going over the edge. That's his biggest thing.
Well, my whole deal with Hartman is this. I think he has girlfriend problems, and he goes crazy in the ice thinking about his girlfriend or whatever's going on. I'm not kidding.
They got married.
Did they?
They got married.
Well,
so
maybe that'll settle him down because
30 goal season incoming.
Well, that could be because I'm saying this from experience, the way he acted on the ice, you knew he was just pissed about something, and it had to be his girlfriend. Now that they're married, that could get better or worse. You don't know yet.
We'll find out.
Yes, we will. Oh, I love Hartman, though.
Yeah. Hartman is the most justifiable of all those extensions, I think. So
absolutely.
I'm happy with not considering him in that vein of players that are the same type of guys. Hartman is your Swiss Army knife, as Dougie says.
That's right.
All right, I think that will do it for today. We had some technical difficulties with Tom. He was not able to get in, so we'll have him on for a future show. For objection, Your Honor, but that's fine. We had plenty of questions to fill out the rest. I do want to leave everybody with this before we go, and now I got to find it. Wow, good work by me being prepared for this when I brought it up. But I did want to make sure everybody knows the new dates for the meet and greet.
Let's talk about that.
I'm just finding the graphics so that I can pop it into the chat here so people know. But we did move the dates to August. It will be
August 25th, right?
Yes, August 25th.
Yes.
From 12 to 2. I'm putting it up on the screen. And I'm going to move us off to the side here so that people can see this. Oh, that's the wrong spot. I'll do this. Nope, not that. It's August 25th. It'll be from 12 to 2 at Zamboni's. Just right
on the corner.
Right on the corner from the X. And we are going to have a live show. We're working on getting ironed out who will be part of that, but we're going to have some North Stars players there. We're working on a lot of different angles to try to make it a lot of fun. And so we hope to have many of you listeners there just to come in and say hi and just have a good time. We'll have kind of a Q&A for the show There will be a microphone that you can ask questions to the panel of other shows that will be part of this, and we'll answer them. And we're just going to have a good time. 12 to 2, Sunday, August 25th at Zamboni's on 7th.
And I can tell you this. We're going to have 4 North Stars. I'm not going to tell you who yet. I'm going to keep that a secret. But we got Lexus Pearson from the women's professional hockey team is already committed. And I'm pretty sure we have Beyond the Pond coming too. And we're working on Soda Pod coming.
Yes.
So we'll have 3 podcasts at once live with a bunch of and we should have a couple of ex-Wild players too, as that's what we're working on.
Yep.
And for shits and giggles, we're going to have bags. And I have to tell you, anybody who plays bags, or what they call cornhole, I won 2 tournaments in the South Metro. I beat a big shot from ESPN a few years back. I know a little bit about the game. So if you come to talk shit, I'm the wrong guy to deal with.
If anybody,
I average 10.
There you go. If anybody
if you know what I'm talking about.
If anybody wants any additional details, just shoot me an email, lockedonwild@gmail.com. But otherwise, we'll keep hyping that up as we get closer. Because
and we will start. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's going to be a really fun time, and we hope to see you there.
Yes, and as we get the names committed, we'll start. And I hope my next interview is next Sunday. I'm starting this late, and everybody's booked, so it's hard getting them on a Sunday when they're doing Sunday golf and softball. But I am working on it, and luckily, Jack Carlson, who's already been on the show, is really working hard to get me some interviews too. So, and plus I got a few other things in the fire with, because a lot of Minnesota Wild players will not do interviews, and it's hard to get them. But I'm working on it. I'm going to get a couple. All they can do is say no so long.
Yeah. Just keep trying.
All right. Great show, Seth. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
Hit that like button before you head out for the day. And we've got Prospect Week coming up for you this week. I'll be taking a deep dive into a few prospects and the organizational depth charts. Really excited for those. Hope you enjoy them as well. But hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you for the next episode here on Locked On Wild.
See you next Sunday.